All right, guys, here's the rules and the format. I'm going to share a little bit about each contestant. As I said before, we have 9 contestants. I'm going to share with you their unique characteristics as I see them. And then I'm going to ask each one of you to come on and do a little interview with them. And you can share your feedback with them. And you can ask it questions if you want, or questions that you've asked. And you can talk a little bit about your likes and dislikes. And those of you who are watching on YouTube, you're going to have, I think, a lot of fun with this, because I've made the scheme of the PowerPoint slides and the color scheme of Three's Company, my favorite 70s sitcom. And if you're not a John Ritter fan, hey, I can't help you. But I would think that this is like us entering the Regal Beagle, sitting down with 3 minutes total, gentlemen. So don't get too locked in, because somebody's going to kick you out of the seat. So time starts now. Our first contestant is a short-term rental. A couple of unique things about short-term rental is that they are unique and they fast-paced, and they love hosting families and friends. Eric, you're our first person.
Oh, gosh. Russ, before I ever saw short-term rentals, I had friends who were dating short-term rentals, and they made her sound so amazing, this short-term rental investment. And sure enough, when I first started looking at short-term rentals myself, I was like, oh, short-term rentals from where I'm standing is just gorgeous. I can't wait to get involved in this. But I started asking short-term rentals some questions, and I realized that I've got to negotiate with a property owner to allow me to go into a daily rental situation. I've got to get maid service set up to come in and take care of the property every time a guest leaves. I've got to work with my guests that come in that could be every 2 or 3 days. And I just realized, Russ, that for me, short-term rentals, although beautiful, was too high maintenance for this young fella.
If you've listened to our show for any length of time, you've heard us talk about infinite banking and how we were able to use that concept to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. But it's just not that easy to figure out, how does this all connect into my own personal system?
Stallion, that's why we created the passive income operating system, bro. It shows you how to turn active income into passive income. It makes all the steps come together. If you would like to get access to it as a podcast listener, we've never given this away in public before. Go to what'swhatwallstreet.com/PIOS.
Man, I'm going to jump in there too, Eric. So short-term rentals, it does, man. She comes across smooth. I mean, you can't lose, right? It's just all profit. The biggest profit you can even consider from a real estate deal is in a short-term rental, right? Until you realize, man, she's volatile. Like she's liable to blow up at any moment because of the literal government that she is involved with. Every day, government is making a decision. Do we keep her? Do we let her go? Do we keep her? Do we let her go? And you know what? She may leave you holding the bag on a bunch of furniture and furnishings and things like that if they just change their mind and say, we're done with her. You have her. So I'm out. I got to move on.
So speaking of ditching her, so to Eric's point, yes, I looked great on paper, started recognizing the maintenance, and I thought, I'm going to get someone to help me manage all this stuff. So I got her a puppy. And I thought the puppy would pacify the situation and manage it, but instead the puppy just started leaving excrement everywhere on that short-term rental, and so I'm out.
Hey, I think you guys are being way too hard on short-term rentals, right? Like, I think short-term rentals is a great rebound, right? Like, for those of us who have been in the long-term rental game and we rebounded, right? We rebounded into the short-term rental space. Like, I mean, it was an amazing, like, it was a lot of fun. I mean, Joey, you and I dated short-term rentals for 3 years. I mean, did you not make some money? Did you not have a lot of exciting opportunities with short-term rentals? And
Joey sounds like a rebound. Sounds like a rebound.
I mean, by the way, I feel like there is, there's a place for short-term rentals in your life, and for some people, there's not a place, right? So in some areas they're good, some areas maybe they're not.
Hey, I will go on vacation with short-term rentals every time. Okay, so hear me out on that. She is perfect on vacation.
All right, well, our time is up. We've got to move on to the next contestant. The next contestant is long-term rentals. They are definitely predictable and strong, and they definitely appreciate taking responsibility. Eric, you're up to ask or talk about your experience with long-term rentals.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm still, nobody brags about how beautiful long-term rentals can be. They say she's just kind of dull or, just kind of average. I'm not so sure. I see what people mean by that. And I know that it takes a while to build that relationship and for that relationship to really grow. But I know that so many who have done well with their lives and have done well financially have had these long-term relationships with long-term rentals. And while I've never actually dated long-term rentals myself, I can tell you, I'm always looking out of the side of my eye and catching long-term rentals. I'm interested. I'm interested.
Well, hey, my good friends always said, you know what? She has a great personality. Okay. So just give her a chance. Just go down that path with her and get to know her. You'll like her the longer that you know her. Unfortunately, the only long-term rental that I've ever had has not worked out to be great. Her personality, super boring. In fact, has a long-term effect on the pocketbook that I'm just not really, it's kind of slowly leaking money out of the bank account. It's like, can we just be honest? Like, you're not producing as much as you're taking. And I think in order for there to be a good relationship here, it's got to be a give and take. We got to have a little equilibrium here. And
Yeah,
unfortunately,
but
it hasn't worked out.
I have a different relationship with long-term rentals. Not flashy, slow and steady. That investment is going to be there for you pretty much through thick or thin. Hopefully a couple of tornadoes will come through and destroy mine and I can get the insurance money and be a happy camper. But the way that I look at long-term rentals is, for the most part, it's good. But every now and then it's like the investment loses its temper and decides to start breaking things. And then I have to pay for it. So it's not all unicorns, rainbows, and cotton candy. But so far, the most tried and true.
Yeah. So I definitely have a very similar relationship with long-term rentals as you, Joey, where I think maybe the first one didn't work out and I just assumed all the rest of them were like that one. But I do think that as we move forward in our world, that there's going to be a lot of demand for this person and this asset class. And I think for those who really love the long game and are willing to spend that time, devotion, hands-on, maybe with that person and asset, that there is an opportunity for them to make a lot of money over time. And I love the capability to not only get the depreciation, but also be able to refinance them over time and get cash back out. All right, moving on. This is harder. As you're listening, this is actually harder than we expected it to be. All right, let's bring on contestant number 3. Contestant number 3 is a syndication, which is an investment usually pooled with other people, and it can be in lots of different categories. The character traits of syndications, that they tend to be very sophisticated and detail oriented, and they love being a part of a large group. Eric, you're on the clock to ask and talk about our contestant number 3.
You're muted.
You talk about a contestant that fits the online dating profile. I'm telling you, syndications is the one, because when they send you their profile, oh my gosh, every one of them are gorgeous. They're 10s. I mean, there's not a flaw in them.
Are you saying there's catfish going on in the syndication world?
I'm telling you, in the syndication world, there's catfish going on. And you really have to be good at digging in and asking the right questions and make sure you get to know your syndication as a real person and who they really are. Because I'm going to tell you, there's some warts hidden under that wig and the glasses and, and the pictures that you're seeing online, because all things are not equal. Believe me when I tell you, I've had some bad syndication dates.
Man, I'm going to jump in and I got to tell you, on the whole, there's some really great syndications out there. As long as you know you're dealing with the one who actually owns and operates that syndication. The ones that really throw you off are the ones that are got this amazing, beautiful, profile, like you said, but they've got like someone else behind them who's actually running the show. And those, they could be abusive, to be honest. I mean, some of those people behind the scenes are not out for your good. And you got to be able to discern, as you said, Eric. So, man, make sure that you understand what that syndication's business plan, what are their real intentions and their long-term plans. And if those things don't align, you got to move on.
I think what you're trying to say, Joey, is she's a two-face. And you never quite know which one's showing up. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. It can be really great. And you know what? You may never see Jekyll. But for many of them, Hyde shows up quite frequently.
Man, I feel like there's a lot of, cynicism in this room, man. You guys are very down on different investments. I've had maybe a love-hate relationship, but man, more love than hate in this. Like I feel like
That's why I said it was a two-face, Russ. I mean, sometimes the good one shows up.
yeah, I love the fact that I get a lot of variety, and there's a lot of different places that I can invest in. There's the opportunities are endless, right? A lot of times I get to see a lot of them toward the end of the year because of the tax advantages and the way they're pulled together. I don't like the fact that I can't really influence the outcome of them, but man, sometimes it's great to just be in the car.
Is low maintenance, to your point, Russ. Low maintenance.
It can be. All right. Moving on to our contestant number 4, a fan favorite, I think, land. And this this contestant is very grounded, if you will, a long-term thinker with a solid foundation. All right, Eric, you're up for talking to contestant number 4.
I'm gonna tell you, I dated Land for about 3 years, and Land's a hometown girl. Land's easy to understand, and Land and I just had a great time together. I don't have too many negative things to say about Land. Land and I got along really, really well. And even when we parted ways amicably. And I really liked the Land space and enjoyed that time. That time, Russ, was worth it, the time I spent with Land.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, Land is about as sturdy and solid as you can get. You know what to expect from her. She's gonna put in the work. It's going to be just day in, day out, plain Jane. There's not a whole lot of like pizzazz to her though. Like she's just going to be there. She's solid, and she's constantly giving great returns. Like, especially when you do it the way that you and I've done it, Russ, as far as having someone else operate on Land, it is absolutely low maintenance, high return. And I'm not worried about her going volatile on me ever. I mean, it's just plain Jane, good results.
When I sat down in front of this investment dating opportunity, everything looked great. Read the book, right? Dirt Rich by Mark Podolsky. Phenomenal book. I thought it was incredibly interesting. I thought, wow, this looks like this could be the one. And then I read a little bit more. And for me, I found out, wait a minute, I got to do a lot of background search for this thing to work. I got to build a lot of systems. I got to do a lot of mailers. I got to do a lot of calls. I have to be in front of probably a bunch of things I don't want to be in front of. So for me, that was a bit of a turnoff for this opportunity. But we have a tremendous amount of people who have a ton of success. And so again, I think it just shows there's a lot of fish in the sea, and this one I just let swim on by.
Yeah, I think Land and I will be a partner for a long time. I think that just the consistency of the demand for land and the ability to low barrier entry for a lot of people that's they're okay. It's a cheap opportunity to get into it, but also for some people they can go out and buy land and subdivide and be able to create lots of opportunities much greater than what they would have ever considered have been able to build. It's a business. And if you're good at sales, I think, land will be attractive to you. And I think that you'll enjoy participating in it. And there's lots of different ways, both as an operator or just a pure investor in the land. If you listen to our podcast every single month, you see that land is a constant producer. All right, moving on to contestant number 5. Behind door number 5, we've got e-commerce. Some character traits of e-commerce is that they're savvy, resourceful, and constantly keeps up with the trends, if you know what I mean. All right, Eric, your turn to talk about your experience with e-commerce.
Russ, when I saw e-commerce the first time, I knew e-commerce was just out of my league. I'm talking about, I knew that this particular investment was, I would really be outpunting my coverage if I was ever able to create a relationship with e-commerce. And so what I had to do, I don't know if anybody's ever seen that movie Hitch with Will Smith and Kevin James. I had to hire me a relationship coach so that I could learn how to be in a relationship with e-commerce. I had to upgrade myself before e-commerce and I could ever become a match. And so once I did that, once I became a better version of myself through the right kind of coaching, now e-commerce and I are in a relationship, and woo, it's really exciting.
There was nothing worse than walking into class when you're in school and the teacher saying, "Pop quiz day." Why? Because you were unprepared. Are you unprepared though for financial freedom?
Don't be. Find out how close you are by taking our 30-second quiz at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/quiz.
I'll tell you, for me, e-commerce has been one of those, it's worked out really well so far. We've got a great operator in the e-commerce space. And I'll tell you, she's just kind of been slow and steady, but there's always opportunity to improve. There's new ways to get market share. There's new ways to get out there and influence the outcome, which I think is what Russ and I really enjoy, being able to influence it as a business. So I'm telling you, I love e-commerce. It's just a matter of trying to figure out where the right operators are for me.
I feel like it's like weird science. Eric had to go to dating therapy. For me, e-commerce, I'd have to go to weird science. I'd have to figure out how to build it to make it work. And I'm just not that creative. But if you've got an e-commerce and you need some funding, yeah, by all means, let me know. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I like the sound of e-commerce. I think that e-commerce is one of those ideas where I like the personalization of it, right? Like it can be who you want it to be, if you will. And I don't know what Joey was referring to. I think he was talking about the business that we own that's a candle company in the e-commerce space, because I know he wasn't referring to that that dumpster fire 100unicorns.com because that's been a straight loser from the beginning. But there's a lot of things to like about it. I'm very envious of others, right? Like this is kind of one of those moments when you look at the one that are the people who are having lots of success in e-commerce, it becomes like Jesse's girl kind of thing. And I feel like, I wish I possessed the detailed nature to manage all those moving parts, but I don't. And so e-commerce is not really an option for me. All right, let's go to contestant number 6, which is Turo. Turo is definitely an adventurous and free-spirited individual, and they love to keep things exciting. At least I experienced that personally. We'll talk further about that, but I'll let you, Eric, jump in there.
Russ, I'm a child of the 80s, so I can hear Prince in my head right now singing, "Little Red Corvette, baby, you're much too fast." So for me, Turo is it's owning a depreciating asset. I've got to interact with clients. I've got to buy the right car at the right time. I've got to have the right inventory available. It was just too much for my mind to take on, too high maintenance for me. I'm out.
Well, it's all about making sure that you have the right operator. Turo is one of those things that could be way too heavily maintenanced. You talk about maintenance on the day-to-day grind of managing all of the inquiries, managing all of the rentals in and out. And then you've got, on top of that, the actual maintenance of the vehicles. So if you're not in a position to either take on a full-time job, or 2, you don't have an operator locally that you trust can really manage the assets properly, I would be running for the hills from Turo. But for me, it's been amazing because I have an operator that is doing all of the above, and they're getting super high Google reviews, and it is working out tremendously. In fact, I just did the math, and it over the course of a year, it was better for me to have rented it on Turo through this operator than to have sold it and buy a new car. So I'm all over this.
Turo numbers wise looks amazing. If you can get the churn, if you're in the right locate, like, so they say there's one person for everyone, and I believe to a certain extent, but I think there's also certain people in certain times of your life, and I think Turo is one of those investments where, in certain places, it makes perfect sense, and it can work, right? If you've got a reasonably dense urban area, people need transportation, so there's all those really cool things, and numbers wise, you can make it work in your favor. But to everyone else's point, I agree. The wear and tear, and actually people maybe just ditching the car somewhere. Or Russ, I think you have an experience with Turo. You should probably share how that date went.
Well, my Turo experience was a little volatile, to say the least. I spent a lot of time chasing it around. I would find out that, I feel like Hootie and the Blowfish. I'd find them smoking weed in the back room, and there was just never a lot of money in it, but there was a lot of money that I spent for it. And I just think for me, the way I did it clearly wrong. I bought the most expensive cars and thought because I liked them, other people would like them, but that's not the way you make money. You got to buy cheap cars and then rent them out. So I clearly made that mistake. All right.
Don't forget to go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/cars to learn how to set up your own Turo business.
Oh, okay. All right, let's talk about contestant number 7 here. This is an investment in an online business, which could be a little bit different. We're talking about probably content websites, not necessarily selling a product, probably selling information. The characteristics of this one is that they're passionate, they're independent, and they love to do life on the go. Unlike my page that says love to do live on the go, it was meant to say and loves to do life on the go. All right, Eric, you're up first.
Russ, this is one where I sat down to have my speed date with online businesses. Online businesses got up and went to the restroom. I don't know what that means about me, but I've not had any experience with online businesses. But I suspect it's much like any other business you would buy. You've got to look at what's underneath. And if what's underneath matches your values and goals, then maybe it's worth a second date.
Wow. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I think to your point, Eric, you got to kiss a lot of frogs in order for this deal to work. It's not going to be just right in front of me. To be honest, I think a speed date may do you some harm with this online business character here. You got to do a lot of due diligence in order to make sure this works. But I'll tell you, when you do, and you work with somebody who's an expert at understanding the personality and how these online businesses work, you can have some real success. And in my experience, it's been very low maintenance, but decent automated income on the back end that has really turned out to be great for us. And in fact, go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/freedom navigator, and you can learn how to do this for yourself.
I've been reasonably interested in having deeper talks with online business. But one of the things that's been kind of clawing me back and throwing doubt into the arena is AI, ChatGPT and so forth, right? How is this content business relationship going to work when there are now all these systems and devices and technologies that are coming out that can go and mine the internet and bring it all to me for free? So I am curious how that's going to play out. But I still think it's an interesting avenue.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Mark, that I think AI will change the game, but I also think that AI is changing the game for the good on that too, right? Like you're able to use AI to help limit some of the costs that you are paying for the copyright services in order to create the content. I think you can take the AI content and use it to make better resources for people. People pay for organization, not information, and they love visually seeing things. I think they'll still go to websites for that content, at least for now. And I definitely wanted to get into the online business space. Like you said, Joey, I went through the process a number of times. I'm just unfortunately, I've just not followed through enough, right? Like, we went out on on a semi first date, if you will. And then I forgot to call back. Not that I wasn't interested, I just forgot. And, now it's kind of gotten awkward and I don't know if I should, go back to it. So, all right, let's go to contestant number 8. Contestant number 8 is a private lending opportunity. Some character traits of private lending is they're stable, they're dependable, and they love planning ahead. All right, Eric.
Oh, Russ, this is for me a love story. Private lending was my current private lending situation was a relationship that I had before the business opportunity came along. And so I knew what this other person was going to be that I was going to be matched with. I knew their character. I knew their passions. I knew their goals. And we just connected on so many levels. But even though we did that and we had all that history and it's been amazing, we still signed a prenup so that we both understand exactly what we expect from the relationship. So I would say, hey, thumbs up, totally in for private lending in that relationship, but also make sure you always do your due diligence.
Oh, I'll agree with you, Eric. All of the work with private lending is on the front end. I mean, you're going to have to ramp up with her. Okay. You're going to make sure that you have all the proper documentation, all of the due diligence, all of the boxes checked. But man, once you do that, you're going hand in hand and you're just out, you're in paradise, walking down the beach together. I mean, just hand in hand. And it's just like automated. You just don't even have to worry about it. So I'm in total agreement. Just make sure you get the right pick up front.
Well, I don't know what you guys have been smoking over there, but you need to start sharing. Yeah. Go ahead and get a prenup, because you know what I've heard about a prenup? All that does is make work for lawyers on the back end. And I don't care how good your due diligence is, you always end up finding that one crazy relative that you married into and you just didn't know they were there. Now, all that being said, I really do like private lending. I like it. It's clean. It's simple. I've had a couple of successes, had a couple of fails, but at the end of the day, like you guys said, you're doing the best you can and you're evaluating the best you can. You're trying to check as many boxes to protect yourself, prenup, due diligence, tied to a physical asset that the money is being lent for, escape clauses for yourself, but recognize sometimes people just lie.
I think it's always, we talk about the investor DNA and everybody has a type. Private lending is probably not as much my type, just because it's kind of a do it once and then it just happens on autopilot from that point forward. Like I love the engagement of investing. I love being a part of the process, and I like that part on the front end. But unless there's an opportunity for me to participate maybe on some equity or something else, I'm not as interested. I understand why you like it, because there is an asset that typically backs it, which allows you to participate in it. I like to be the recipient of private lending, just not necessarily the investor. All right. As we move to our last contestant number 9 is crypto. This characteristic of this investment is definitely charismatic, unpredictable, as some would say, but full of potential and slumps. All right, Eric, you're up.
Russ, there's a story in the Bible, a relationship story in Hosea. I know many people that listen are people of faith, and he marries this lady named Gomer, bizarre name for a wife, but anyway, he married her, and gosh, she was unfaithful to him and he had to keep going and getting her. That's kind of how I feel about my crypto experience, is that I've married crypto and crypto cheats on me sometimes, but gosh darn it, I just believe that if I just keep on rebuilding that relationship, that eventually crypto is just going to come and be the love of my life. And I'm holding on to that for now. So I am a hodler, as they say, on crypto.
I'm going to go ahead and say, I think from a passive income standpoint, if your purpose for dating crypto is to create passive income, I haven't found an amazing way to do it in today's environment. And let me just say, it's great for a long-term store, in my opinion, but it's just not something that's producing immediate cash flow that I'm too terribly into right now. I mean, it's just not the season for me.
You guys are looking at this all wrong. I've been waiting to get to this side of the table this entire day. I mean, there was some doldrums in the middle of the speed date, but I saw the couple at the end. I was waiting for them to roll through. Crypto, in my opinion, is your best friend from high school, that one really cool girl, but you weren't really interested in dating her at the moment. But you said, you know what? If we're 40 and we're not married, let's do this because it's going to work. So that to me is crypto. Crypto is my get out of jail free card in the future. If nothing better comes along, I got a fail safe.
Oh my goodness. I love crypto. Crypto is just interesting. There's a lot of opportunity. I love the fact that it's contrary, right? Like it's the decentralization of the currency itself. I think better understanding crypto and going to it with right expectations, right? Whenever we first got into crypto, we were buying the computers that was mining it. And when we were doing it with Ethereum, it was working out well. But as the government has now made everything more expensive, especially electricity, which these machines use a lot of electricity, the spark has been lost, if you will, with crypto and us. And Joey, I think what you're saying is you had a little YouTube moment there. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. And yeah. I keep looking and I'm waiting for crypto to come back to the experience we had early on. But as we've participated in Bitcoin mining funds afterwards, and we're definitely way in the hole as compared to what we put into it. And it's just a little bit too rocky of a ride for us. Whew. All right, gentlemen, that was a lot of fun. I hope that as you listen to this, Tribe, that there was something that you could take away. Maybe it was just a time to laugh, right? Like, I mean, it's hard to go through any investment in 3 minutes, especially when you have 4 people providing points. But we need to have fun as we learn, and hopefully you did. If you did, please just screenshot this episode and tag us somewhere and just say you liked it, so that way we can create more content. If we don't see the tag, we're going to say, oh, you must have hated it. Never do that again. Coaches, Stallion, thank you so much for participating. Everyone have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.